So this is obviously a nativity scene that we shot for. We did this one actually just as a favor to a friend. You notice that the quality is not as high because we shot this on Sony A7S. In fact, we had to because we were shooting at this abandoned house. It was actually an abandoned school. It was like three hours away. 3 or 4 hours away. I mean, we drove really far. It was out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of this town. I swear like 10 people lived there. And we found this house. Somebody let us use it for the shoot. So we dressed it up. We put the hay down. We got all these characters. It was this Christmas video. That was really cool. But it had some really cool lighting setups and things we were doing here. So to give you an idea, what we were going for is, first of all, this beam of light coming down on Mary and Joseph, because it's like the classic nativity scene. You guys have seen this before. I mean, and that's kind of what we're going for. So we wanted this light coming down on them. And then the way we did this is actually really interesting because this video, because we didn't have any budget for it, we're doing it as a favor. We were like totally scrappy on this one. What we did is I had a friend who came and helped us out. He brought some LED lights that he owns. And so we're actually using an LED light up here. And I believe, well, definitely we had an orange gel on it, like a CTO. Most LED lights come with like plastic orange things you can put in front of them. So we had one of those on it. And then we didn't have barn doors or anything because the only way to get this look where you kind of like have this fall off into shadow is to put barn doors and like direct the light straight forward and not let it bleed out the sides. So what we did is we actually took a cardboard box and we put it on this light so it looked like this basically. And then we just had light blasting out of this cardboard box, and this is just up here above them. And so we had this light just shining through a cardboard box. We took a bunch of tape and just taped it to this light, and it just sat up there like that. We put it up as high as we could and created this look. So like you get scrappy with things, you know, if you don't have barn doors, get a cardboard box. And it ended up looking really beautiful. I will admit some of this darkness happened in color grading as well. So I kind of enhanced the effect a little bit by darkening that in post. But that was basically the idea we got. We were also shooting haze into this scene. A lot of it. In fact, we went through like almost half of a bottle of haze, which haze normally lasts a long, long time. And we just went through tons of it because this building had holes all over the place. There were holes up into the attic. There were like birds flying around inside the building, and the haze just would not stay. So you can't even see haze in the scene. And that's because it just didn't really work. So, we fail sometimes. Yeah, a little bit. Like you can see the effects of it just a little bit, but it wasn't, that much. It would have been even cooler with haze because then we really would have had a serious beam coming down, which is kind of what we wanted. We really wanted with the haze was a beam of light coming through these windows. Again, it's that same thing that I talked about with that still with Jen Blossel, is having light coming through windows, which is just a really cool effect. And another thing that we're doing here that's interesting that we talked about last week is we're using mixed color temperatures, which we've done in some of the other ones as well. We did a lot on this shoot. The light is tungsten balanced coming down on them, but then the light coming through the windows is daylight balanced. And the reason we did that here is because we're trying to emulate moonlight. And in a lot of situations, like we'll actually use LEDs or daylight balanced lights to create moonlight coming through windows. It just creates a really cool effect. So you'll notice that the light coming through these windows is actually blue. And just looking at the scene, you don't even notice it, but it feels like the moon is outside. But behind the scenes, there's actually just an LED light out here pointing in the window, and that was it. We've got a little bit of like some effects of that here. You've got a little kind of blue cast on the side of these guys. It's just a really pretty look. It's like even a little bit right there. This is really pretty blue moonlight coming through the window. And it's a really cool way to create a night scene. We do a lot of our night scenes that way with just blue moonlight coming through. So that's kind of how we lit that one. Here's another one actually from the same shoot. There was like this little boy kind of wandering around this house, and then he stumbles upon the nativity. Again, just showing the mixed color temperatures here. Same thing. His face is actually being lit 100% by a candle that he's holding. in this scene, he's actually picking up that candle, and we chose to light his face just only with that candle, which is a really cool effect. And then this blue cast that you can see on the back of his head and around the side of him was just an LED that we had out here, just kind of pointing at him. The reason we were using LEDs on this shoot is because we're so out in the middle of nowhere. Everything that we had to power, everything that we had, which this shoot got really complicated because we had tons of Christmas lights and all sorts of things going on. We had to have heaters too. This is in the middle of the winter. Everybody was freezing. So we had heaters turned on, but all of those were running off of generators because there was no power out there. So having these LED lights was super important. It made it so much easier because they're just battery powered, and we could stick them wherever we wanted, and they lasted all night, which is awesome. So basically just an LED light kind of shining down on him here. Again, we're emulating moonlight by doing that. It just creates this really cool effect. Like the orange and the blue already look really cool because they're complementary colors, and we'll talk about color in a coming week. But yeah, like it just looks like moonlight, which is really cool. Jonah's asking, in this case, are you setting your white balance with the candlelight? That's a really good question. In this case, I'm probably putting it halfway between. If you look at, like, you'll notice that he's pretty orange and the light is still pretty blue, but you can kind of mess with that in camera. You're just going to kind of see what looks best depending on the situation. So in this situation, it looks like what I was doing is putting it about halfway between 56 and 32. But really, in some cases, you might balance for your tungsten and then let the blue be really blue, or you might go halfway between or balance for the blue. It really just depends on what you want. So you can mess around with that and just see, what it looks like doing it different ways. That's a great question. And then one more from this shoot. Again, you'll see here, just want to really push this idea, blasting light through windows. I mean, on that wall here. Last week, we also talked about creating, making the background interesting using light rather than just having a dark background. So this is really, this window cast back here is really helping to separate this actor from the background and just making it look really cool. But you'll notice also that we have this beam kind of going through, so it looks like a window. Well, in this case, it actually is a window. But in a lot of cases on movie sets and stuff, they'll have just flags that they'll put in front of the lights that just have the window frames, the horizontal and the vertical frame that makes it look like a window. And they'll just put that in front of the light, make it look like, the light's coming through a window. So you can do that. In this case, obviously, we're using a window, the light's coming through that window. But another thing here is that this is all being lit with one light. Again, I love that. You've got this really nice light area on this side of your talent. And then, of course, all the dark on this side just creates a lot of contrast, which you guys have heard from me before. It's just that idea, these awesome highlights on these nativity figures here, and then the shadows on this side. Just really cool. So, and then, of course, everything's dark here. It's just a really interesting scene, just the way that the light is moving around the scene. There's pockets of light, there's pockets of shadow, and that creates for a really interesting effect.